in for Eileen. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First, we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. The audience is welcome to join in. Thanks. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Seth?
Yes.
The first thing that we need to do is vote for chair and vice chair before the meeting starts.
Can we do that without Eileen present?
I believe so.
If she gets nominated and then somebody seconds her, yeah. And as long as you have a quorum.
Okay, sounds good.
We have a quorum.
Perfect.
She definitely wants to be president, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, she didn't say that she didn't, so. So first order of business is everyone in favor of voting Eileen Brett as chair of the Shade Tree Commission? Aye. Second is for vice chair. I volunteered myself.
Motion for Seth?
Motion.
Great job as chair.
Thank you. Motion passed. All right, with that out of the way, the next item is the meeting minutes from last meeting, December 18th. I know that there were a couple corrections. I saw that those were pulled through. Does anyone else have any questions, comments? Okay. Last meeting's minutes approved? Aye. All right. So next order of business is new grading permits. So we have a couple addresses on the list here. Is there anyone from 10 Radnor Way here tonight? I saw that there was just someone that walked in the door, so nope, that's Laura. Anyone from 24 Orchard Lane? If you could come up and introduce yourself into the microphone and introduce the project. And then if you have plans, you can put them on the desk here, and then they'll be projected onto the screen.
My brother's camera show.
No worries. We don't bite.
By the way, this is Steve Schreiner, who volunteered his time for the census. So, thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Schreiner.
Steve. Appreciate it.
We're having fun doing it.
Great. I heard you're doing a quick job of it, so appreciate it.
I think we should have Steve's son come up here.
Probably won't be better off.
All right. Make sure you speak into the microphone, and then just introduce yourself and the project.
Yeah, Dave Schreiner, the project, 24 Orchard Lane, Villanova. We have 20 tree removals, and they're shown, obviously, with the X's up there. We have the arborist here who will describe those trees that are being removed.
And
Sure.
Dave, this is a property that doesn't have a structure on it except a garage now.
It had a house on it. that,
Okay.
We went through the demo process
Okay.
already and removed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also the path of which construction is happening. Is that an existing drive or a new drive?
There is a new drive going in that you see on the plan on 22 right there.
Okay.
And there's an existing drive right here that's being removed except for a short, small area out front.
Okay.
Okay, so inventories are the theme. So I went out and evaluated all the trees on the site. There are, I believe, 79 total trees on the site. And for the trees that need to be removed for the driveway and construction, there are 17 trees there that are either white ash or just declining species. There are 3, we'll say, higher value trees that need to be removed: a red maple, a ginkgo, and a white pine. But all the other trees are in pretty bad shape, and a large majority of them are white ash.
I was at the site, I would agree with that. You know, I walked around a little bit and didn't see
Yeah.
anything that you said that wasn't true, so.
Right.
As far as any trees that need tree protection, I'm not,
I believe it is yeah, shown here on the map.
could you just point those out for us?
Yeah, we have tree protection fence, running over there.
It's a big poplar, line,
It's a line with a diamond in it, as a
That's
tree
correct.
protection, and I didn't see any trees that weren't protected by this.
Yeah.
There's a nice linden in the back, that's protected.
That was protected from them,
Okay. And then, Steve, if you could go through the 10 trees that are being replaced and the plan there, that would be great.
Sure. We're working with Bernard Pansack, he did more of the landscape work,
Okay.
so I'm not sure.
Sounds
We're
good.
definitely putting back whatever's required.
We have the list, it's right here.
Okay.
The folks have the list, too.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, if you could just, walk us through that, and then we'll just confirm that the formula checks out to what it needs to.
So as I stated, Bernard Pansack is handling the landscape, replanting of it. So he has 2 sugar maples, as far as, larger shade trees, 2 sugar maples, 2 black gums, 2 swamp white oaks, 1 linden, and then he has 1 ornamental Coosa dogwood, and then a magnolia, which would be a little ornamental. So as far as the shade trees, he has a total of 6.
Okay. Yeah, the one thing that we need to confirm are so there's 21 trees being removed, correct?
20 total.
20 total trees being removed. And Matt, did you do the formula on this?
I didn't.
Okay. So let's run through that quickly. Give me one moment while I find is there a list of the diameter of the trees that are being removed?
Yep. The
Okay.
3 trees that need to be replaced are 30, 24, and 10.
The last 3 on the list,
Okay.
on the sheet you have there.
Are we counting the 10-inch white pine? It's not a shade tree.
So
I don't know why we would.
It is still,
Is it, okay?
supposed to be allocated.
That's fine.
yeah, so anything that's 6 inches DBH or higher needs to be accounted for.
So we have a total of 3 replacements.
I see 64 total inches, I guess, being.
John, 3? Okay. And the proposed trees, Matt, you confirmed are within our recommendations, guidelines?
They're all very, very good species.
Okay. So we're more than covered with your proposed trees. So I think, everything checks out. Anyone have any questions or comments? Okay. All agree to approve plans specific to trees? Aye? All right. Thanks for coming in and going through your plans. Appreciate it. Okay, just confirming that no one from 10 Radnor is here. So in that case, if they come before the close of the meeting, we'll come back to that. If not, we'll have to move that to the next meeting. And then we have our new addition on the list, 787 Darby Paoli Road. So John, I know you have some info there.
So the applicant requested, it was 5, Sure.
Yeah, if you could just introduce yourself, the project, and then John will take it from there.
No problem.
Thank you. And make sure you speak into the microphone so it's captured. Thanks.
My name is Jason Tyler from Jet Green Tree Service. The project is 797 Darby Paoli Road in Bryn Mawr.
Great.
And what they're looking for.
So they're taking down a total of 9 trees around their targets. Most of them are on the right-hand side of their house. The pitch, the grade, very large property. The pitch by their house is extremely steep. So they're getting rid of the ones by the targets, the closest ones that are right by where their house is, and the ones that are kind of lining where their driveway is. Just ones that have had branches come out and that could hurt or harm somebody or something. So that's their intent. Of the 9, there are 5 that are over that are considered heritage trees.
Okay,
And
great.
that's kind of where we're at.
John, could you?
So out of the 9 trees, we went out and reviewed this applicant's request. 6 of the 9 are okay. They were confirmed as hazards. However, the 42-inch oak, 40-inch oak by the garage, and the 40-inch walnut, the applicant is concerned about the proximity to the dwelling itself. However, by way of our ordinance, they do not meet the definition of a hazard. So the applicant is asking for relief in regards to removing these trees. It was clear to them, and we spoke with, I guess, your assistant today,
Yes.
that these trees would be, need to be replaced, 6 per tree.
Okay.
John, so what did you think of the situation? I mean, our ordinances, an ordinance is it's just a thing that's written. But when you examine the trees, what was your feeling?
Absolutely, they are very close to the dwelling. They are buckling the driveway a little bit. And two of the species, I think it's both oaks are buckling the driveway. They're on a little bit of a pitch or some erosion, but they don't meet the ordinance code of hazard. So maybe we can give them a little relief here on.
John, I'm just wondering, could we trim some of the branches that are overhanging or causing them some concerns about the closeness to their house without having to remove the whole tree?
These are very close. Any pruning is not going to make a difference.
Okay.
And just to clarify, the photo that we have, are these the ones in question? Okay. Right.
There's one more, but yeah, there's
Okay.
2 of them.
Oh, and then the ones that we were just speaking to, are these guys?
Yes. That one's very close to the house, obviously, you can see.
Right.
The other 2, the heartwood's rotted in the center. They've just had major branches come out and hit cars, and they're trying to eliminate this because they're afraid.
Right, of course. Yeah, this would scare me too, for sure.
I'm just wondering about the 3 trees that are protected by the ordinance. Beau Prairie, we had an issue with someone who wanted to take a perfectly good oak down because they were just afraid of the tree. In this case, it sounds like these are over the house, so the circumstances are a bit different, but our position has always been, please try not to take the trees. But we can't really enforce that, right? We don't have the power to say you can't take the tree. So usually we just say to the owner, please consider a good trim job or something, but at the end of the day, like if they're going to take the trees, our position is, how are they going to replace them?
Okay.
With the right species and stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Is there room for all the additional replacement trees then on this property? You said it was a large piece of property.
Very large property, yes. There's a lot of room.
So
Okay.
the 3 in question are 30 dBH and
Above.
greater, correct?
Yeah,
So that
we
would be,
start at 40.
a total of 18 replacement trees. And in speaking with the owner, you mentioned that they were okay with planting replacements?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure they're hoping to get some relief in the 18.
Okay.
Just for the proximity to where they are. And how does that ruling go? This is just for my knowledge in the future, too. If these are heritage trees, but like the heartwood it is rotted, you never know which branch are going to come out in a tree like that, a species. Say pruning that, there's no way to prune these to make them safe just by the way they're growing.
Right. Yeah, so if they're hazardous, we don't require you to follow the formula because, you know, they're hazardous trees. But for anything that's healthy, that needs to follow the tree formula. So out of the three, it sounds like the one is in really bad shape and the other two are just potential fall hazards close to the home.
The two are closer to the driveway that are in really bad shape.
Okay.
That's the two that you see right next to each other.
Okay, these guys?
Yeah, I mean, you
Okay.
can almost walk inside of them.
Oh, okay,
Literally,
gotcha.
When I say the heartwood's rotted, you can walk
Understood.
inside of those trees. That's how the base is.
Understood.
And, you know, obviously, you got to take in consideration how far up it goes into the tree.
Right.
They're having a lot of branches fall out of those two. The other one, the oak, that one's fine. I mean, it looks great, which is almost part of their problem.
And is that this one?
That's that one.
Okay.
Yeah. The one closest to the driveway.
Okay,
That's the one in question, the one closest to the driveway, which is, you know, being pushed over the roof line from the wood line behind it.
right. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, those are the ones where the,
It's a spot that goes up to them. Their driveway's rather long.
and John, you confirm those two that have rotting heartwoods are definitely in pretty bad shape? Okay. So in that case, no replacements for those is fine. The third one that's close to the home is in regards to a fall hazard and just being, you know, close to the home. I do see it's on a hill, which doesn't help. John, what's your opinion on that one?
I mean, they're not a strict hazard.
Right.
They are close to the home. It would concern most homeowners. However, I don't believe they're a hazard at this point in terms of just structural stability.
Okay. I'm leaning if the homeowner is willing to plant 6, you know, I think that would be in our best interest. And it sounds like, you know, you've spoken with them and
Yep.
that would be acceptable. So I think if we all agree, approved with the replant of 6.
Can I abstain from this?
Sure, yeah. What, yeah, I mean, we need a majority vote.
Can you use your mic, please?
There's other trees in the township that are being taken down, and I don't know how to say this correctly, politically correct. And I'm not going to say anything, sorry. I'm just going to abstain.
You're pro-tree, that's fine. All right.
So we're talking about 3 trees coming down.
3 trees, 2 of them are in very poor condition. The third one, well,
Can
so-
you use your mic, please?
Isn't our formula going to require more than 6 to be replanted if 3 are heritage or coming down?
Well, so the 2 are hazardous, so we don't require those.
I thought, is that right, John? I thought 2 out of the 9 were hazardous.
6 out of the 9 are hazardous. 3 of them
3 of
that
them are
remain
fine.
are not hazardous.
Right, and they're
That is the
all
40-inch
heritage.
oak, the 42-inch oak, and the 40-inch walnut.
Right, so we got 3 heritage that he wants to take down, and I think we should stick with our formula.
Okay, sorry, I was mistaken. I had thought that these
Yeah,
two.
I think where we're lost is those 3 heritage trees they're not hazardous. So why would we? So why would we give relief in that case? I don't understand that. I mean, that's a slippery slope. We start,
Right, I think we
Yeah,
need to stick with our
Sorry, I
ordinance.
misunderstood. So these are not 3 of the healthy, large diameter DVH. Got it.
The applicant is here tonight. They've been contacting Ms. Sherwin and myself in regards to their concern about the proximity of the trees close to the dwelling. To them, they believe that they're a hazard just because of their proximity. They're here before us tonight to express that
And
and ask what our final objective is.
And I accept that completely, but they need to replace the trees that they take down.
Right.
Do we have a picture of those 3 that are in question near the home?
I thought it was these in the back.
You have them there.
This was the last minute. They were not going to be here tonight.
Okay.
They were going to come to the February meeting. Their office called Trish. Mr. Dorsini granted them permission to come in front of us tonight, so it was a last-minute thing, so there wasn't a lot of preparation for this tonight.
None of us, we all just got it 2 minutes
Yeah,
before the
this
meeting
is
kind of
in
thing.
the packet. What's
Is that,
That's not your.
No.
that's one of the hazards?
Well, I'd like to propose that our preference is they don't take them down, but it's their prerogative to take them down. But if they take them down, they need to follow the formula as per the ordinance.
Which will require you 18 trees to replant.
Okay.
Yeah, knowing what we know now, I'm in line with that too, sticking with our ordinance.
Yeah, just let me finish for 1 second. Or the applicant can pay a fee in lieu of, which is spelled out right in our ordinance, and I can go over with you at a later date or send it to your office, and pay for those trees that will go to a big tree fund within Radnor Township.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, John, for that mention. Okay, so I think we're all in agreement. So 18 replacement trees or monetary to the shade tree fund. So all in favor? Aye. Well, we're following the 18 trees. Okay, got it. Sounds good. So,
Ordinance is being followed everywhere, so that's why I'm abstaining.
understood. So 4, 1 against.
So, John, will you be able to report back to us on what their decision is, so we know if we should be looking for 18 trees to go in and/or money?
Correct. The applicant's going to have to come back to us, tell us what they're planning, where they're going to plant it, or if they're going to do the monetary value as it pertains to our big tree fund.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect.
Great.
So
All
that,
right.
can you
Thanks.
please clarify that you're approving them to replace 18 trees or in lieu of,
The
but
monetary value.
prior to that happening, they must contact John or myself?
Yes, correct. Thank you. All right. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
Good evening, Laura Luker, Ward 4. I live in that ward where he's just was talking about. And I just wanted to make a comment. And first of all, definitely, I hope that they do the replacement of that, at least the majority of that trees, because that particular property is on a slope. And removal of those trees, there is already water that is coming down in that area. If you drive Darby Paoli, it is an ice hazard in the winter, and it's also a pothole scenario throughout the year. So there's a problem going on. So we hope to encourage, so when he comes back, we hope that his replacement is good and deep roots and not just ornamentals. And also, he should be on your list of registered arborists.
Thank you for that. Yeah, we'll make sure in review of the replacement trees that we look out for that. Okay. Moving on to the next agenda item. So number 5 here, tree removal without approval. There's none at this time, as well as no clearing permits to review. Number 6, violation notices. There's none at this time. So number 7 here, 2019 year-end report, 2020 goals. Was hoping to have Eileen here so we could review that. Hopefully we can extend this meeting long enough where she will arrive and can cover that, so we might come back to that. Nothing for old business unless anyone has, Matt?
I could say something
Sure.
about what's going on with the parks.
Yeah, that would be great, thank you.
So, Steve Schreiner Tree Care Company has 2 crews. They are, if I can get this to play here. Ian, I'm not sure it's playing. Anyway, 2 crews. They started the first park area that they did was Radnor Trail, which is 2.2 miles. And they have done 1,350 trees on the trail. The right-of-way is 50 feet on the trail, so it's an enormous right-of-way. Like West Wayne Avenue is 33 feet, and so the trail's 50. So there's a lot of trees to do. They were concentrating on trees that are hanging over the trail, especially noting those trees. And it's been 2 weeks and they knocked that off, and it's really great to work. They're very pro. They can tell the condition of a tree and the type of a tree without leaves, which I can't. And so it's been great. Beau Connor Park is the next park up. And the app, the Urban Forest Metric app, has been terrific. None of these folks have used that app before. And the first day they were fine. There's been really no bugs at all. And so it's really encouraging that we got this generous offer and that we're moving ahead on the parks.
That's great. 1,300 trees is quite the progress in a short amount of time. Appreciate you going over that, Matt.
Hey, Matt, is it possible to get a copy of that?
Yeah.
I'd love to put that in my commissioner newsletter and share it out with people as well as the information that you just shared.
Send that to anybody who wants it.
Great. Will you send it to all the commissioners, please? That'd be great. Thank you. Yeah.
Matt, if you can just send it to me, and then I'll make sure it gets out to everybody.
Great. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Does anyone else have any old business to cover? Okay.
I wanted to point something out.
Sure.
That's cool. At one of your meetings, Lisa, I heard that you passed a resolution to plant more trees or tree trenches in the township. Can you tell us anything about that?
Sure. So we received a grant from the state that will allow us, this is really Commissioner Larkin's project. A lot of these tree trenches will be going in, I believe, in Ward 1 to combat some of the stormwater issues and the flooding that we have. So working with Steve Norsini, Commissioner Larkin and Mr. Norsini came up with a plan and Steve McNellis, who's our Director of Public Works, that the work around these tree trenches, a lot of this could be done by our own staff at a much less expense, and therefore we could do more. So the plan, I think they're working on a plan. We did get a state grant in order to help fund some of this project, and actually all of the project. That's where the money is coming from. And they're going to be designating various areas where these will be going in. I think they're going to start this work in the spring. But yeah, so it will be our own public works staff. I actually was going to request, I have an area where one might work over in my ward where we have a natural spring that runs into the street. It might be helpful, not for Darby Paoli Road, I don't think, but at another location. So yeah, it's exciting, and that work is going to start and it's going to be happening. I'm not sure exactly, and I apologize, the amount of the grant off the top of my head, I don't recall. But I think what they were saying, that each tree trench will cost about $40,000, the work and the materials, and our guys would take care of that. So, yeah, it's a great,
cool.
it's a great thing.
Do you have a lot of experience with tree trenches, John, or like a brief?
Not so much in this area. They're very big in New York City. They're
Uh-huh.
moving this way. They were developed in California. That's where it originated, and they are starting to move east. New York has been using them, I think, since like 14, but they are becoming a hit around here. They're expensive, as pointed out. They're like $40,000. So, but they do work.
They excavate, put in
Correct.
gravel or something?
Correct.
And plant
There's a
them?
modified planting mix and all that good stuff.
So if we could, I think it would be good for the totals that Eileen does, if we could get some numbers of trees, so you can put it with the year-end report for 2020, would probably be helpful.
We can get that from McNeilus
Yeah.
for sure, once it's completed.
A couple more trees.
Was the grant money something that we solicited for, or did it come?
Yeah, it's part of, is this what, is it not the water, it's not the waterways grant. I forget, but it was definitely a grant that we put in for, and that Representative O'Mara helped us secure. So, yeah, we're very excited. I really apologize. Off the top of my head, I cannot think of what the amount is, but it's very exciting and certainly another option to help control in a more natural way the stormwater issues that are happening, especially up in North Wayne and other areas of the township.
That's great.
I'm sorry, off the top of my head, I cannot recall. Yeah. But it's from this, it's state money. Yeah, it's state money. So, yeah, that's exciting. And
That
our
means that-
township staff helped us secure that as well.
So it only will go on township land then? So Ward 1's maybe that West Wayne Preserve as a spot? Is that what they're thinking?
So I think there's a larger stormwater project planned for that. Whether or not these get integrated into that, I'm not sure. Again, I need to apologize. It is a project that Commissioner Larkin really has been working on, but I'm glad to ask him if we can provide more details, and we can certainly either report out on that at a commissioners meeting. Once the plan is more finalized, I don't even know if they've selected the spots or how many, or we've divvied up the money or anything like that. We really just got the grant at the end of last year. But we can, or I can certainly ask if we can provide a report to you guys. How about at your next meeting?
That'd be great.
Would that be good? All right, let's do that. So I will get more information, work with Commissioner Larkin. Perhaps I can invite him and he can speak to it. Because he really, this really is something that he helped spearhead along with Mr. Norsini and Mr. McNellis.
Great. So Eileen, our newly re-elected chair, Eileen Brett is here, so I will hand the reins over.
It happens the same at work too. If you're not around, you get the action item. This is the way it goes. So thank you. I am very honored. I hear Seth is going to be the vice chair, so I think we're in good hands. So thanks, everybody. And I understand we're down now on number 7, the 2019 year-end report out and 2020 goals. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we did the 2019 year-end report out actually in the December meeting, how we were doing. I think it's my work.
Can you talk closer to the mic, please?
Certainly.
Thank you.
I think it's my work world and this world overlapping because I have this on tomorrow's agenda at work. So I think for here, we want to focus on the 2020 goals.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, good. So what is attached is really 2019. And this is basically just to give us a starting point. In many cases, we may say, hey, this is a good goal. We want to continue with this. In other ways, we may want to modify it. We may want to delete it. And then, of course, there may be some new ones to add. So I would say, why don't I give everybody a few minutes at least just to read through what the goals are. And then we'll, I think, go one by one and determine, do we keep? Do we stop it? Or do we modify it? And then at the end, we can add on anything new. If the list becomes too long, we'll prioritize.
Sounds good. I was hoping Frank would be here, but did he reach out to you at all about his work with grants?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So I met with Frank actually today because he wasn't able to make it tonight. So he's working on the grant. Laura Luker from Radnor Conservancy that turned us on to that. And one thing I need to know, Lisa, just before you run out the door. Oh, just a real quick question. Grant approval. Oh, sorry. Grant approval. So we're working on our first grant. We're very excited, but how do we get it approved by the township? Like, who do we send it to?
Wait, I'm sorry, say that again. You're working on a grant.
We're working on a grant. We understand it needs township approval. We just don't know who.
So.
We don't know what the process is.
Usually the commissioners do, approve, grants before they go out, or grant requests, since it's, I guess, is it on behalf of the township
Correct.
making the request? Are you working with, who works on our grants for us? And her name is escaping me, and it's terrible.
We're not working with anyone, so I can say no.
Okay, so there is, and I'm having a senior moment, excuse me, but there is somebody within the township. Oh, what? Oh, is it really small? Oh, I don't think then.
Yeah,
I would talk to Steve Norsini and just make sure. Steve will know
Okay.
if it needs to be something that we're approved. But if it's really that small, yeah, I would. And if you're not, we're not using an outside grant writer or anything
No.
like that. Yeah, I double check with Steve, but he'll know if it needs to come before the commissioners.
Okay. That's great.
But
That's
yeah,
it.
Good luck.
Thanks,
with your
Lisa.
grant. I'm sorry, I have to run to another meeting. Sorry.
That's okay. No, good timing. So the grant itself is for planting bare root trees. So Frank's plan is to request the maximum number of trees that can be requested, which are 12. They're $50 a tree, so that would be $600. And then we would plant them using volunteers. And that's where James, Frank planned to use your name on the application because we want to be able to list, I think it's 3 certified arborists or tree tenderers. So, right, good. So we can use James' name. Matt, we were going to see if we could use Jane Golas. Okay. And then John, right, you would be named 3. So I think we're good there. All certified arborists. Okay. So that's our first grant, and we'll see what other grants we look for, but that's the first one.
That's great. Good path to head down.
Yeah. Laura?
So I brought this grant to be put in front of you primarily just because it's an ongoing type of application. It happens spring and fall. And it is it's not really a grant, but because each tree is $50, it's a copay. But I brought this in front of you because I do think that this is a type of planting that is appropriate for certain projects. And it puts the township, gets the township involved, and it gets volunteers involved. So it's not necessarily good for every project. And this particular, I don't know where my notes are, here we are. This particular grant is strictly for municipality property. And it does, it has to have kind of shovel-ready projects in lieu. And also understanding the post-installation maintenance responsibility is extremely important. And the reason why this grant came in front of us is because it is given to all the people who are part of the Pennsylvania Horticulture Society tree tenders graduates. And they are to be the ones to kind of push it into their townships, into their municipalities, or work with their shade tree and work with their public works. As you said, it's $50 a tree, up 8 minimum, 12 maximum. They're bare root. The way that it works, I've done this, I did 4 trees. You actually, after you do I had a project up in the Willows, and I knew where the trees were going to go. I had my tree tender and the Steve approval of everything and Tammy approval of everything. I went and got the trees myself, put them on top of my car because they're bare root. If you do more than 4 trees, you really need a truck, and preferably like a township truck. So that means Public Works. Then you need to have them stored somewhere prior to installation. And then for installation, you want to have, it's on a specific day, weekend, and you need to have your volunteers ready for that. So when you do, let's say, 12 trees, you want to make sure that you're doing them in one area. You don't want to be doing 12 trees along certain streets and all around, or dotting around. If you could do two different areas if it is 2 different projects. But I think a couple things. First of all, the application due date is the 5th of February. And just so you know, for the pickup date and the installation date, it's the week of the 23rd and then the weekend of that, April 23rd and April 25th. I'm not going to be in the country, so I'm not around. First of all, what really needs to be understood is if Public Works wants to do this, they really need to kind of be part of this conversation. And do they have the staff, and do they have the time to be able to do this? And then second of all, what are the tree projects that they know about, or what Steve might know about, or what Tammy might know about, or John might know about, or maybe even the EAC might know about. And when will these projects be ready? So are they ready for, do you know about them right now? And are they going to be ready for installation in April? You might need to push this into fall and do the November planting. They're equally as good. And their selection of trees that they have are wonderful selections of trees for bare root. They're all native, and they have ones specifically for the spring, and they have ones specifically for the fall. So lastly, we need to make sure there's a commitment on the township and that the location is identified so this application could be put together. So those are the kind of steps. So it's not, I don't know if it's a total given, but I think if you want to, put the thumb on it and find projects, hopefully, because I don't know any that the Conservancy has been said to, and Parks and Rec, they don't have a strategic plan of their parks of what is needed. So it really would be coming on to finding out from the Public Works and from John of what's ready to be installed. It's a great price point, though. You get $50 for 12 trees. That's $600, and the street tree program that we do in the spring and the fall, it's like what, $400 a tree. So,
Laura, I just have a question.
Yeah.
You were saying we should restrict the planning to one location or at the most 2.
I do, because
Is that
of
just
volunteers.
logistics, or is there no there's not any specific requirement for that? I mean, if we had manpower or whatever, because, there may be 2 here that we could fill in, or I just wanted to understand further.
You can.
Okay.
When you have seen a lot of these go, they might be doing one whole street. I mean, this all came out of PHS with their million tree plan million. So their streets, trees, when they did in the outskirts and the properties or in the townships around here, when they had to clear cut all of the ash trees, they'd put in a ton in one area, a whole volunteer group. It is a logistics scenario.
Okay.
Gathering volunteers to do a project, it sounds easy. It's not, especially in Radnor.
Okay.
Very entitled group of people here. That's why they like the full-service installations. So, food for thought. And it's not going to go away because they do these things on. And there's other types of grants that PHS does that are watershed types of grants that are bigger and more installation, or a bigger piece. But anyways, this gives you something to think about, and we need to talk to Steve.
Okay, great. Thanks,
McNeilis.
Laura.
Laura, one quick question. You mentioned the 12 that you planted in the willows and
4.
4? Okay.
Because my car can only take 4.
Who took care of them after the fact that they were planted? Did you go and water them?
Me.
Okay. So good to know. We'll need to keep that in mind, too.
So prior to that, another experience,
Mm-hmm.
the Conservancy put in about 20 trees in 2 different parks, smaller trees.
Mm-hmm.
And we had them helped installed by the township. They're, these are 2 gallons. These are not big trees. So it was fairly easy to install these trees. To put together a maintenance program from spring is always harder than fall because you have to water all through the summer. Fall, you can kind of get away with it. Water every holiday versus water every 2 times a week. I did a huge volunteer Google Genius sign up. It's really hard. The other thing is when trees are dispersed throughout the parks or wherever, to get water to those trees,
Right. Not easy.
try carrying watering cans up hills, down hills.
Right. Yeah.
It's not an easy task. Now, the township has invested in a truck that holds water for watering, which has really been an awesome scenario because they did all this installation the last year of all these trees. So they were forced to do this. So it's a game changer. So now there's some people who, this is why you need the commitment of
Right.
Public Works for post
Care.
installation.
Great. Thanks for running through that. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Laura. Okay. So folks, let's see, I would say we'll go through this grant topic and then we'll go back to the goals. Okay, so for the grant topic, Frank's authoring this. The number of trees is open. We were under the idea that, hey, if we request the maximum number of trees, we will find homes for them. Basically following the same idea as the spring and fall planting, that we would potentially look at residents, not that they would have to sign up, but Frank did propose, would we want to look at something like Garrett Hill and canvass a street, or canvass a neighborhood and see if folks would accept them. And if not, then we would go to the parks, since that's typically our overflow area, and we could plant them there. And we thought between volunteers and the township that we could plant 12. But we can always make the number less if that sounds too ambitious.
I'm sure we can find homes for 12 trees.
So, and we can request small or large trees, so it's a good mix.
Yeah, I think that all sounds good. Sounds like, Frank can spearhead conversations with the township and get this going.
Yeah.
Do you think we can get this done by the, February 5th due date?
I think so. The grant application looks rather simple.
Okay.
And Frank seems, he's done grants before. He seems very comfortable with it. It was more so knowing who to go to. So I
Yeah.
gave him the name of Steve McNeilis, and then I said I'd find out about township approval and then solidify the 3 names that have to go on the grant. So he seems comfortable with it.
How tall are the trees, do you know?
I don't know.
They are,
They 2 to 3 feet or 5 foot?
5 foot.
Okay.
Yeah. They're substantial. They're not, I think they are 1.25.
Great.
And, we do their roof, we get all the roof.
Yeah.
Nice.
So would Frank be the one to follow up with Public Works, or?
Yes.
Okay, so he's going to take this whole ball of wax, and, okay, great.
Yep, he's willing to, yeah. Okay, so motion to approve that we'll go ahead and apply for the PHS grant for 12 trees. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, super. Okay, so I'd say let's go back to the top of the list and we'll just kind of run through each goal and determine keep, stop, modify. So the first one is implement the master street tree charter. So that would include completing the survey and then addressing any gaps via our spring and fall planting. Addressing any gaps via our spring and fall planting. So this one is really kind of our heavy lifting for the year. It's the street tree charter and doing both the spring and fall planting. So any thoughts on this?
So, street tree survey is well underway, as everyone knows, and parks tree survey is just started, and we're not going to do any analysis until the parks trees are done. John and I talked, and that's your comfort zone is to finish the survey and then do the analysis.
Get everything over to TIG at Urban Forest Matrix. He's going to manipulate it and then put it for us in easy terms so we can get it over to Public Works for management.
So to put, meat on that, Jane and I will start again in like March, and we probably have 1,500 to 2,000 street trees left to do.
And John, I just want to clarify. Are you saying once we get the street trees done, then we'll do an analysis, and then we'll do part 2 parks in another analysis?
That's correct. So street trees will be completed by Matt this year. You anticipate 2020, correct?
Yes.
At that point, then we'll put together a total matrix of all the risk, all the way down to priority for just simple pruning. So, and then that'll go to obviously us first. We'll review it, and then we'll turn it over to Public Works for review, bidding, however they want to handle it. Or if Mr. Gibbons wants to donate through his company to all the management of that, would be great.
I would love to, but my wife will not agree.
Good answer.
I like the way John volunteers, folks up here. I'm seeing a trend.
I have a question. Does the technology allow for updating as things occur? Okay,
Yeah,
so,
so
Like a
part
storm.
part of finishing the street trees will be running around looking at work that Radnor's done or Pico's done that we may have recorded that doesn't exist, where a tree doesn't exist. We have to update, but the app allows you to go make many visits, as many visits as you want to each tree, so.
It actually creates a work order for you. So you can go back in, if you're putting a cable in the tree, per se, you can actually put a little note to go back in 5 years to inspect that cable. That'll pop up in 5 years and give you a tickler to just go out, do another review, so it's great.
so it's an ongoing plan for long-term maintenance and plan, great.
And just as, right now, Pico is actively involved in Radnor power line issue trees, and most of them are ash. And they're already, you're probably seeing the red-orange tape on trees. If there's red and orange tape on the tree, it means the tree's going to be evaluated. If there's a yellow dot, it's going to be taken out. So they're doing all the primary power line areas. So it's like they're not looking for trouble outside of power, but it's a big deal because they're marking a lot of trees that right around. Oh, also the senior vegetation management guy at Pico he came before the Board of Commissioners with a group of Pico folks during the summer, and he's very excited to come back and meet with us, Shade Tree, and meet with whoever else wants to meet with him in Radnor to talk about the protocols, because he feels like Radnor found out late about this taping, so a lot of people were asking like what's going on, and they really didn't know, and he said that was our fault, but we want to, they want a better relationship. They want to take advantage of like what we know. So I think it's all good. Like,
I did send him an email. I haven't got a response back about, wood utilization. Some of that timber that they are removing is perfect quality ash, which is great for a lot of, timber product, furniture, different things. It'd be nice to utilize some of that in the township, whether we donate it, have it milled, and give to projects going around to help for construction, or to build facilities within Radnor that can be utilized through the wood. I mean, it'd be nice to utilize our resource It's a lot of trees coming down the ash. I'm not sure how many you've seen, but I've seen it. It's pretty scary. And a lot of that wood is still structurally sound and can be milled. So it's just, I'd like to see some utilization. So
Great idea.
put your thinking caps on and see if we can do something maybe.
How about if we add to our goal that a relationship with that PICO person as a constant, a couple times a year?
Yeah, and it's so funny, Claire, I just made a note of that because I thought that would go well under goal number 5, partnering with our stakeholders. So I just
Okay.
put a note to put PICO on the list there.
Yes.
Matt, can you get them to come into February? I mean, that'd be a great talk about this wood utilization, see what we can do.
Yeah, I'd be happy to call him and see if he can do that.
That'd be great. We'll give them the floor. We'll get our business done and let them talk a little bit because they are a big partner. They're the ones that are usually getting hammered most of the time when they're coming through and pruning, so.
Matt, quick question with the survey. When the Shriners guys were doing it, are they doing all trees or just 6 inches and above?
So they're doing all trees if Radnor planted trees on the trail or in parks. So any new plantings, they're doing no matter what the size is. But when we get down to the trail was the first example of 50 feet right away, there are trees that are literally down a slope where no one is walking. So we're really not doing those. We're not doing trees where there's no chance of human intervention. And so, like there's maybe 300 or 400 small trees that
You're not doing
they're
that.
not in the way. They're not doing anything. They're just off, but
Right.
they're in the right of way. We're ignoring them.
Okay.
And so, and the parks trees, we're not going to go deep into the woods. We're just going to do trees where people or dogs or whatever are targets. Parking areas, ball fields, and some of the woods, but not deep into it.
I have 2 items. Hoping we can add these to the list. So the first one is Frank spoke to this briefly last meeting about getting a grant or funding for satellite imagery. And Matt, I know you're a little bit familiar with that and the cost of it. So I think that would fall under item 1 here, adding that as another bullet, being a goal for 2020 to make that happen.
Yeah, Seth, I would agree. By coincidence, I just wrote that one down as well. So we are really in sync as a team here.
All
So
right.
Frank mentioned that today, and he said that Philadelphia had used the University of Vermont.
Okay.
So I said, I think the first step would be to understand what the cost would be. And then also, like, could it be historical? Could they go back 5 years, 10 years, 20 years so we could see what the canopy was and then how it has changed over time? So he thought that was possible. He also suggested that once he gets a cost, we could look at possibly having the county fund. So instead of us, maybe Delaware County funding. So I was totally open to that. So I was thinking, what I wrote down is, could we add a goal, a bullet on here that says explore canopy analysis?
Yeah, that
And
would be
then
great.
we'll just make a decision on whether that's a go or not this year.
Yeah.
Okay, super.
Thank you. And then the second item is, this has come up a few times now, which is what to do with good wood, good trees that are taken down. So, at least starting to think about how we even go about finding, whether they're small furniture makers, medium size in the township or nearby, and just having an option for, especially when, good trees are taken down on residents' properties, giving them a recommendation with what to do with the trees, I think would be great, and baking that into our SOP. So a couple first items that popped in my head were if we wanted to post via Molly, residents of Radnor, if they had any ideas, or if there's anyone in the area that could make use of wood, and then go from there. So maybe that
I
fits
think that's a
under
great
item 5.
idea, Seth, because I think there's a lot of people that want to take those nasty black walnut trees down that are
Right.
so dirty, and I hear that they're good sources of wood for furniture and things.
Right.
So I think that might be real positive for a lot of residents to know that they could contribute towards helping to recycle those trees.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I'm in favor of that, and I just made a note to add it to number 6, be green and efficient. So we could put, I think it would fit under
Perfect,
that
yeah.
category nicely.
I missed the second page, yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, I did too. Obviously, number 7, explore the tree canopy. So maybe we dovetail that under number 1 for now.
Oh, perfect, yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. Okay. So anything else to add to number 1? We have the tree survey, we have the spring and fall planting, and we have the canopy analysis. Okay?
The only thing I would add to that is that if we're going to do the spring planting, just from experience, I think we should get started on it. We're always up against the wall, and, I mean, I would be happy to, do it again, since I sort of know what's going on now. So I just think that maybe for the next meeting, we ought to start talking about what we want to do.
I think that's a great idea, Ginny, and I'd welcome you leading that up and spearheading that, in January, February. That'd be super.
Okay.
Okay. Number 2,
Lo-
keep the, oh, go
Laura,
ahead, Seth.
did you have a comment?
Definitely get on that, because we've already actually placed our order for the tree giveaway. Well, no, you have to. The nurseries don't have material you have to do it well in advance. And especially with the size of trees with that project, that's really important. And that you want to get these trees, you want them to be native grown in this soil, not from nurseries that are bringing them up from other areas or down from other areas. I mean, that's ideally, but that would be the contractor, so that's why you really want to work with them. And you want to work with ones that are really good for planting in the spring, like your oaks and things like that now. So, something.
Good. Thanks, Laura. Okay, so number 2, keep the ordinance current and effective. So the bamboo ordinance is done. Part of this, we said, would also be helping residents, developers, contractors follow the ordinance, like in some type of proactive educational manner. So we're not leading with the stick and giving people fines, but we're more so out in front of people, let's say, that buy new houses and didn't even know the ordinance existed. That's what's meant by the second bullet. Update the ordinance. We tabled that to this year. And then the website forms, I think Trish completed that, so I think we're good there.
Just because I may have come in after the fact. Update ordinance, what were we thinking? Just reviewing it?
I think you guys can help refresh my memory. I think it was like doing some benchmarking, like looking at other townships at best practices and then trying to modernize the ordinance.
I would like to see our heritage tree size be changed to 25 inches from 30.
Okay.
Yep.
I'd also like to see our replacement increase from, 2 inches or something now to a bigger tree. I mean, it'll take 100 years for a 2-inch tree to become a heritage. Is that something we could consider, John?
We can consider it, and other townships have done it. The problem is availability of plants, 3.5, 4-inch, 5-inch caliber trees.
Really?
It's
It's hard
very
to-
difficult.
Really?
There's a big cost jump, and survivability compared to 2.5-inch tree. There's studies done, and I can send them to you, that sometimes those larger trees, when they're planted, they go into shock. Those 2.5-inch caliber trees within a decade can
Right,
fast
okay.
track past those larger trees. So it doesn't
good
always make
points.
sense, and availability is always a major subject.
Well, the other thing I have about the fact that we have no teeth in this heritage tree, as Matt pointed out tonight, if they want to take it down, they can take it down, and, I mean, why even have it in there? We have no
I mean, we have
no
teeth
in
because
it.
we are going to make them replant.
Yeah,
So we
but
are
they're
going to
still
gain
gone.
some benefit,
Or
obviously.
donate.
Yep,
Yeah.
or donate. Just through my township inspections and hazard tree reviews, I've done some samplings over the last 2 years, and I've came to the conclusion that our average size large canopy tree in Radnor Township is anywhere between 23 and 26 inches. So as a benchmark, I would like to see 25 inches be our heritage tree, for the mere fact that we're not going to get those back, obviously. And that is our large size structured tree throughout the canopy. There's not a lot of 30 inches and plus out there. I mean, there is, obviously, but our standard is 23 to 26. So using that 25-inch mark is going to preserve a lot of trees. We will
Okay.
reduce, you know, just mere, except for like what Mr. Gibbons said, a lot of people are coming in and removing trees, but we'll reduce our canopy loss extensively if we hit that benchmark of 25 inches.
Yeah, good idea. Okay, so does it make sense to keep this one on here? And I think the flyer that we talked about, Claire, that you're working on and started with the Conservancy, I think that fits nicely under this goal, like just how do we proactively
Yeah.
inform folks?
Yeah.
Yes, Laura? Okay, so maybe at the end, if that's okay? Okay. Okay. Anything else, James?
Yeah, for the updating, I think we should, every time a contractor comes in here, there is, we talked about ash trees being okay to remove, but then there's a bunch of other trees that are invasive, that some I think we give
Oh,
okay to, and some we don't. So I think you need to make it an even playing field.
There's a difference, James. The reason why the ash was let to go by the wayside and not have any permitting is because once it's impacted by EAB, it becomes a hazard.
Well, yeah, I agree. with that.
Unlike Norway maple, ailanthus, other trees that are obviously invasive, spotted lanternfly, all those other things. However, those trees become a, you know, extensively strong risk
Yeah.
association to the urban environment, and then we have problems. So
I
that's why they
agree,
were removing
I
them.
agree with it. My point is, we got a email from the township about, 50 or 100 trees that were taken down, and they said that they were taken down, that are Norway maples, they were all invasive trees. So we're allowing that for some people, not for everybody. I think we need to make it an even playing field
Maybe, I
somehow.
don't think we need to solve that tonight.
No, but I-
But maybe
yeah.
we put that as an item, like a pain point, something that we need to improve somewhere in the ordinance. Okay. Okay. Anything else behind number 2? Okay. So now we're moving on to number 3, which is a pretty chunky one, because it's the world of communications.
Chunky.
Yep. So let's see what we have down here. Have communications go live on the Radnor Township website. Increase education and awareness to help improve the tree canopy. And actually, apologies, we have the flyer under this one. Make it easy to obtain advice on existing trees. Advise residents during construction projects. Provide input on key issues, like emerald ash borer. And we have storm and electrical line concerns. Not sure what that one is, because it's not a.
No, that one falls right in, I think, into the right-of-way, this whole right-of-way project.
The
that-
Pico.
No, whether the township is going to abandon its responsibility about trees in the right-of-way and put it on the residents. I sent out a
Oh, this maintenance
Yeah,
form thing?
yeah,
Oh,
I-
okay.
but I
Is that what
haven't
that
heard
is?
anything from anyone. So, all I was told was that they're pushing that task force to 2020 sometime.
Okay.
But John, have you heard it? Peep?
Are you looking for comments from us as well, Matt, or?
Yeah, but not tonight. I mean, I wouldn't
Okay.
get into the weeds in this tonight. But if
Okay.
you all have this, and if you feel like you want input, I'm more than happy to take anything that you guys want to give me.
Is this something we should
It's not
put
something
in?
we should talk about tonight because it's just going to waste our time tonight.
No, it's a big topic, but we could add it as a goal.
That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking. you should
Basically,
add it.
just simply maintain township trees, and then we figure out what the plan is, come up with some strategy.
So plan to maintain, but is that under that's not under
No,
communications.
no, I was thinking a new goal,
Yeah,
Jenny, like maybe
right.
at the end.
Okay.
And one thing for 3, I've volunteered to help out Ginny with communication, so more than happy to just add my name to that
Oh,
that
absolutely.
item.
Oh, yeah, and
helping
folks, we can
spearhead all
change
of
around
that.
all the owners, by
Of
the
course,
way.
yeah.
I figured tonight's goal is just to come up with a set of goals that are about 80% there. And then, I can issue them, and then in February, we can finalize them, assign owners. So just to let you know, we don't have to get it completely over the finish line tonight.
Well, I think, as far as this 3, I think that first bullet item is pretty much done, the website is live, we corrected it, updated it.
That's right.
We can, item 2 about continuing education and awareness, I think that would always be a goal, basically. Maybe for next meeting, I could come up with some more action items. I mean, we do have our advertising budget, so maybe we do another ad, or I really don't know how effective those ads are. I mean, that's my concern. We spend a fair amount of money on it. Most of the advertising budget goes to those ads in the papers. I mean, sometimes I fly right over it myself when I'm reading the Suburban, so I don't know. Do any of the rest of you have any feedback on that when you look at the paper? Do you see those ads? Or?
I mean, from a marketing perspective, I think, there's no silver bullet, so I do think it's effective we had it run in the Suburban Times, is that correct?
And the Delco one, yeah.
So I still think that's a good use of money, but I think we should, of course, make a prioritized list of where all we can post, because it was posted to the Facebook page by Molly and some other areas. So I think if we just sit down for half an hour and knock our heads together, we can get some good avenues.
Okay.
Good.
Make it easier to obtain advice on existing trees.
You know what, Ginny, and what I'm thinking, guys, is Ginny and Seth, do you want to, I like this idea of a half hour, knock your heads together, providing there's no pain involved. Do you want to look at this and you come up with what you think should be the bullets underneath here, like what would be impactful?
Yeah, that would be great. I
Okay,
know
sure.
Laura,
Give you some thinking time.
last meeting, gave a lot of really good pointers for a carrier maintenance flyer, so I think I have a running list of some really good ideas for maybe 2 or 3 different flyers that we can put together. And then those are, golden pieces of material that we keep updated, and that's what we use for different situations. So I think, less is more in the sense of our messaging too, to keep it consistent. So I'd be happy to take that on with Ginny.
Okay.
James, do you want to stay on this and meet with Seth and I, or do you want to move on to another project?
The latter.
No worries.
Okay, no problem. I didn't want to exclude you if you still wanted to be involved.
Seth asked me to step down.
I did.
Okay. Number 4. This is really the budget. Manage the shade tree fund. I think this goes without saying that this is a requirement. I don't think we can get out of this one. But underneath it, we have obtained grant funds, and I think Frank is going to head that up, which I think is great. Plan and utilize the funds, provide budget request. I think this, to me, this all looks good. Okay, great. Okay. Number 5, partner with our stakeholders. So this is where you see the list of folks that we assumed were our stakeholders that we should get to know, and some best practices, and I added PICO onto this. And the Radnor Township staff would be like Public Works, Steve McNeilis, Steve Nursini, Engineering. So I think that looks good.
We should add
Yeah.
specifically Parks and Rec to that.
Oh, yep.
Even though I'm, serve as a liaison, I think something that we want to add to our goals is communication. Even, Parks deals with a whole lot of different things, and trees are only one part of that, but oftentimes it just gets passed over, and the township makes decisions about what trees go in, what trees get taken out, and I'd like to see this board and with John and have kind of an open communication between Parks so that parks are made aware of what's happening maintenance-wise, and taking out and putting back in. It's just something that's just been sort of left.
Yeah.
And as a shade tree, we don't have a whole lot of say in park trees, or haven't, up to date.
Yeah, no, I would agree, Claire, and I gotta admit, we're basically relying on you to share with us whatever's going on in that world.
Right.
And then vice versa.
So what I'm trying to
So
say is, I
there's-
think that's what's happened as I've now sat on this board,
Yeah.
both boards for a couple of years, is that it's the left hand and the right hand, and so we go to say, all right, what's going on in parks, and parks is saying, well, what's happening in shade tree? And I'd like to see that become a little bit more partnered.
Right. Yeah,
And I can try to help with that.
Yeah, I would think if you could head that up, because
Yeah,
you-
absolutely.
you see both worlds, so you're gonna know most where the gaps are and how to remedy them.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Should we also add universities to this list? See if they can help in any way. I mean,
Yeah.
Cabrini donated like a
100.
fourth of the trees.
Yeah,
Villanova planted,
yes,
I'd say, I don't know if they're hundreds, but
yeah.
hundreds of trees this year in a place where there was a huge parking lot.
That's true. And then we got Eastern.
And so maybe if we work with them somehow, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not the right person to do that. You guys would be perfect for it.
And
But,
another place, I don't know where this jurisdiction happens, but golf courses. We have, how many golf courses in Radnor Township? And they take trees out and put trees in? Is it
Yeah.
because it's private? I mean, they don't have any of the rules of the township?
No.
Yeah, Overbrook's come before us.
So think about how many
Yeah.
golf courses are in Radnor Township. St. David's, Overbrook,
Yeah.
Radnor Valley. Is that it? And
But to partner with them to potentially accept trees or help
you know,
with the
maybe
canopy or
a more, they're part of our canopy, yeah, they're part of our trees, so
donate trees?
The trend in the golf industry is take the trees out.
it
So
has been.
Golfers hate trees, and Aroniming took, I have to say, 1,000 trees out. And, oh yeah, it doesn't look the same. It went from parkland to links. So,
Okay,
yeah, there might be some
sure,
talking point.
okay.
I think it's a good idea.
I mean, is there somebody on their boards that is responsible for, their golf?
Oh, yeah.
Sure,
I
yeah,
have connections with Overbrook, so I can
Okay.
maybe start that avenue.
at least
That's a good
Yeah.
idea. Maybe if Seth can explore it with one golf course, Overbrook, we can kind of understand their interests, our interests, and see if there's a mutual overlap there.
Yeah, sounds
Okay.
good.
That's a great idea. Okay.
And James, I like the idea about universities, and we could leverage that. So the Cabrini story, the Villanova story, we could advertise that.
Right.
And, it's great advertising for us and the canopy, but it might inspire other businesses, universities to do the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
They might do some Earth Day projects with students.
Right.
They have tons of money.
Yeah, and to break the ice, the first contact could be, we'd like to feature you in a Facebook post.
Yeah.
Are you okay with this? And then go from there.
Yeah,
I know Father Peters, kind of, so.
yeah. At Villanova, yeah. Okay. Sounds great. If not, he's got a lot of students he could delegate to. Okay, super. Anybody else? So to the list we added universities, golf courses, and Pico.
I just had one thought. So you mentioned
Yeah.
Frank found out that the University of Vermont provided funds, or at
No,
least
they
the
actually do the
use of
analysis.
satellite analysis.
Yep, yep.
Using a local university instead, maybe, like Penn State does a lot of outreach stuff.
Oh, okay.
So at least
Yeah.
looking for someone local,
That
and
may
if
be-
not, then there's always,
That's a good idea. That may be easier for Delaware County to fund, or
Right.
whoever we go to
Right.
ask for funds if it's right in the state.
because I've even
Good idea.
seen
Okay.
the Penn State outreach or I'm probably getting the name wrong, but on SEPTA, they had, and Ginny, I'm sure you've seen, they had a lanternfly ad that was run by Penn State. So I think, from an education and just benefit to the area, it would be worth reaching out. It's just a matter of who we would reach out to. But
Yep, no, that's a great idea. And it's great because it's Frank's action item. Makes it even better. Okay. Number 6. This was our whole idea, to be green and efficient. And this really started because we used to all get large paper drawings, and we said, hey, we think we can go electronic, make it easier on Trish, not occupy so much of engineering's time, and be a little bit kinder to trees. So that's how this one started. So you can see what's listed here. Any comments?
Well, I just said it works great for me because I get the big copies, but how do other people feel about not getting that? I'm just wondering. I don't know.
I'm good with the electronic copy.
Okay,
That works for me.
same with me.
great.
Okay. And I did add down what Seth had mentioned about, I just phrased it as, make a recommendation how to best recycle the trees that are taken down.
Perfect. And Ginny and I can add that to our list. I'll lead that, but, our outreach could be a Facebook post or something and get some ideas from the residents.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. And then the last one was explore measuring the tree canopy, which I dovetailed under number 1 now. And then number 8, what we added as we were talking here is to maintain township trees, so come up with some type of strategy this year. Is there anything else we should add on to here?
I'll call Bob and Steve Norsini and see if they still are moving forward on this idea of a task force on right-of-way.
When you say that, Matt, is that regarding maintenance? Is that one and the same, or is it something different?
No, it's right now the township takes care of the trees in the right-of-way that PICO doesn't have authority over. And the suggestion was made, how would people feel about residents having being responsible for the trees in the right-of-way on their property? And I think that's going to require, looking at other townships, that's going to require, an immense amount of discussion, because I don't think a lot of people are going to understand where their obligation begins and ends.
I think so.
There's safety issues, but my feeling is I'm neutral about this. I'm saying I'm neutral about this because I want to say I'm neutral about this. So, but I think that I need to find out if this is even viable anymore, because I haven't heard Pete.
Okay.
But I will report back.
Okay, that's great. Okay. So is there anything else we should add on here? I think this looks pretty good. I'll be pretty darn pleased if we get all this done.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
I agree.
thinking. Okay. Okay, so sounds like it's good. Path forward, I'll draft something up, and then we can review it, and we'll finalize them in February. Okay,
Great.
Super.
Thank you.
Okay. Old business, nothing at this time. New business, nothing at this time. Hazardous trees, number 10. This is more so for information, what's been taken down.
Yeah.
And we have the reports here.
John,
So-
is that
Go ahead,
is
Seth.
that just a miss? 787 Derby Paoli, and then we have 797 Derby Paoli.
No, that's because we didn't find out that they were coming until 4
I
o'clock
got-
this afternoon.
I gotcha. Understood. What I meant was, once the addresses, yeah. So the correct is 787? 797, okay.
And then, John, any comment about, see letter from Rockwell regarding other trees not approved?
Yeah, we
Oh,
covered.
you already did that? Okay,
Yep, we
good.
covered that
Okay.
under the new grading permits.
Oh, super. Okay, last item, public participation, number 12. Laura, anything? Okay.
So this would go on your goals, number 3, talking about communications. And I wanted to follow up with the idea that came upon about getting information out to new home owners. And if you recall, we had, the Conservancy said this might be a nice idea to make all new homeowners aware of the ordinances, specifically the tree ordinance. So, and we did this because, as you all know, if you walk around and you see tree companies starting to take down things, and they're taking down over the amount of trees, and you know, you call the township and say, hey, you guys, something's going on. Typically what happens is they find out that this is a new homeowner. They didn't know about the ordinance. They have a tree company who's not registered, and, you know, slap their hand. So this is to try to make, in my opinion, I think it's really, you know, if we have these ordinances, the township should be transparent in communicating these to the new homeowners, and to taxpayers, period. So the first iteration that you might recall is that we wanted to have like a signed certificate. It was going to go through what was called the certification of occupancy for the transfer of real estate. So everybody who buys a home and has to go through this process. And we decided, no, we didn't want to do that because it was too strong. It was kind of mandatory. So the decision was to maybe go through a realtor scenario. And that's when Claire and myself and then Tracy Poulos, and we had the intern and the whole thing. And as you might remember, that kind of went a little south because realtors in general really don't feel that that's their responsibility to tell the township, new homeowners, what the township's ordinances are. It's really the township's responsibility. Plus, it's a lot of work to continue to push these paperworks onto them. And it just gets kind of lost in the... So I'm kind of back here with maybe hopefully iteration number 3, which is a welcome letter that we kind of maybe have looked at this before, but this would be a welcome letter that would go when people pick up, or when they, and I was looking at the certificate of the certificate of occupancy for the transfer real estate. People have to actually apply. They pay a $150 fee, and they actually have to have a township inspect the property for sewer hookups and incorrect things that are going on. They have to schedule an appointment with Public Works to do this. So they actually there's an opportunity to get this in front of them. And when I mean this, I would think that it would be very nice to have a type of flyer, and this is where the communication piece comes in, and it would be something that would have to be worked on with not only, with Public Works in particular, because...
Okay, can I interrupt
Yeah.
for just 1 second,
Yeah.
Laura? So it is not Public Works that
Oh,
does
it's not?
that.
Is it engineering?
It is engineering.
Okay.
Our engineering inspector. And what would happen is that information would end up going to the seller, not to the buyer.
Oh, okay. So it's not...
So it
okay.
wouldn't-
It doesn't go to them. So that actual of them coming in is only for the seller.
Correct.
All right.
That is correct.
And
Okay.
it's often,
So
It's-
what we need to do is, if that's not the case, then we need to figure out how we can get this to people. Sure. Yeah,
Sorry, we all believe in the concept. We're all bought into the
Okay.
concept. It's just a matter of how.
yep. And I think it's just a matter of talking to engineering or public works, and, because it's not just tree that the welcome letter would be. It could be trash, recycle, yard waste, sidewalks, and maybe even township types of links of activities, so I think there's a certain amount of things that can be put together on that.
Yeah, as a resident who, we just bought last year, it would be lovely to have a welcome to Radnor Township, here's your packet.
Right. So I think
Have fun.
it's not just shade tree, we're kind of like
Right.
getting into a bigger picture. And recycle is kind of right now when people don't know what's going on with it, and there's a lot that needs to be thought through with some of the new issues. So,
We may also want to look into Molly and
Right.
see if Molly can at least give us some direction or some ideas on how we could work that out.
okay,
idea,
so
too.
Claire, you and I will we'll get a certain amount of people together, okay?
Sounds good.
So Claire, having been a realtor way back in the ages, don't realtors still give a welcome packet to their buyers? I feel like we used to do that, and it had this kind of a welcome letter type thing in it.
Every agent's different, every office is different, and yes, different welcome things and gifts. But I do think that we can work offline, is that
Yeah.
we can maybe put something very specific together from Radnor Township that
Right.
just is given, even delivered. We could even have, delivered to every new home that changes hands. So,
Yeah,
we
so
can-
I think the
or
point
mail.
is that it really should be coming from the township. It should not be coming from the realtors who work in multiple townships.
Yeah, and there really wouldn't be much control over whether or not they would actually do it.
Yeah. So we'll work on that. And then I just have one other question, because I've been getting so many people calling me and calling the Conservancy, and I don't know if you guys know anything about this. But on 476, the on and off ramp, are you guys aware of this? But they have completely clear-cutted this, and I don't know if this is township property, is this PICO or PennDOT?
All the information is on the website now.
On township website? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Are you willing to talk about it, or is it something just needs
I
to
don't have a
be-
lot of information about it. I
Okay.
know that predominantly the species was, I guess, about 60% ash, a lot of Norway maples, a lot of failing trees. I do know that. I was up there.
Uh-huh.
I don't know about the actual project itself, but if you go on the website, it's explained pretty well.
And this diocese
Not a tax-
knows nothing about this?
It's not a taxpayer job.
It's not?
It's not a Radnor project.
Because it's on PennDOT?
Um,
or-
That I do not know, all the information about that.
I heard it was Steve Vegas and Mike McCoy. That there's a Gateway grant, fund that was established years ago by three people, Steve Vegas being one of them, that for enhancement of Radnor's, when you drive into Radnor, you see groomed hill or something. I don't know. It was just for enhancement of those gateway places.
Okay.
And I think, Jane feels like it was fine, but I always thought it was ratty looking. So I think it would depend on the person's point of view, whether they think it's a good project or not, but it's not being paid for by Radnor. It's being paid for by this fund that was set up by One
three
thing I
people.
do know is that hillside that you see that's cleared was originally, that was the intent, to have an open visual of Radnor.
Well,
Yeah.
hopefully they have a plan and some plantings of some sort. So what's really curious to me, and I bring this up to you because this is just time after time this has happened, that it sounds like this is privately funded, but it's not on private land.
I have no idea who owns that, who has jurisdiction on that property.
I don't either. I'd be curious to find out. I'm not opposed to getting rid of invasive species and things that might not look very great, But I do oppose not having a shade tree commission, not being aware of what's going on. And I also would really love to see a plan, because you don't do something without having a plan. I hope they have a really great plan, because it probably needed it. So that's all I'm saying. So I think it's a really something
Yeah,
to,
I
I'll be interested to see what's
I got the
online.
same speech from my wife.
Well,
You know, because
she and I think alike.
she feels that, she feels that sometimes shade trees not in the loop
Well,
on
and
some
this is what
things.
Claire was talking about, of being able to get all the various, even planning or zoning and EAC. And it's not necessarily the people who are chairing these dioceses of these committees. It's actually the townships who they're supposed to, the committees are advising. We need those people to be more inclusive, such as the Steve McNeillis's, the Tammy Cohen's, the Steve Norsini's, the John Hosbecks. We need.
Yeah, so what if I propose this? Because I gotta admit, this was a pain point in 2019, where we did find out about projects either after the fact or late, and so I do think overall we would like more transparency. Maybe I'll just draft a goal around that, but we'll have to figure out the how. Like who is it that we need to partner with that, you know, could help us in this area? And then, of course, thinking, okay, what would the purpose be? Because we don't want to be a bottleneck or an additional communication channel for folks that are
Right.
just trying to do their job, so.
Right.
Just have
Yeah,
to give it some thought.
I kind of regret, I don't mind what they did on the township, or the 476, but I had a lot of people call me up and said, what's going on there? And it's kind of tough to
Yeah, it's
say
good
to
making
Jet,
you look like
whatever,
a,
Jet Green or whatever they are, you have to tell your customers you have to replant when
they don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
So that's why, I mean,
it should all be, everything
it's
should be the same, I think.
transparency, and it's also, it's just respect that we all get to understand what's going on. I mean, otherwise, why are we all here? And
I would say we'll look into this
Yeah.
specific one. It would be good to catch up, read the website, like John referenced, and then we can even look into. Do they have a
I'll
plan?
request some information in regards to plans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because it would make sense that they replant or follow the formula, and maybe there's a logical explanation for this.
there is always a logical,
If it's not Radnor property, they don't have any jurisdiction.
right.
I would find,
It's the same as any other
It's
property,
any,
though.
exactly, it is the same.
yeah.
Can we
Even if
please
it's-
use
even
our
if it-
mics, please?
Mike, you want to- even if it's private property,
Yeah.
it still would be.
It's still
Private, you
part of
would
the
still have
ordinance.
to
It would still
abide.
be in Radnor Township. So if it's
Right.
private property, if it's PennDOT property, or if it's township property,
It all goes through.
it
Yeah.
should be.
Just be if it's state, I suppose.
And I'd like
Yeah.
to also point out that we've made some progress in this, that goal, that pain point,
Definitely.
in the goals, and, you know.
We got Lisa.
We brought Commissioner Borowski on, and she's been a
It's
great
awesome.
liaison, and information, and having, you
And
know,
having John.
Trish and John, being consistent has been really helpful, and I think we can do better. But we have made some progress. If you recall, a year ago, we didn't even discuss any of these things on this committee. So I think we have to remember that we are making progress.
And I think, as you said, we don't want to be a bottleneck. The
No.
Conservancy doesn't want to be a problem. We all want to have the same thing, and everybody is doing what they feel is right. It's just a matter of being open and communicating. So, good night. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else, folks, before we close the meeting? Okay, sounds good. Have a nice evening, everybody. Thank you.